camels, new armor, the cherry blossom biome, archaeology, and much more. I will survive 100 days of new trails and tales update. Or will I? Anyway, I put a lot of effort into it and hope you have a lot of fun. So friends of the sun, I warmly welcome you to the 100 days in the new Minecraft hardcore trails and tales update. I was incredibly excited about this adventure, and so I started cutting down the first tree. I immediately crafted a sword that I used to get the first sheep I saw into heaven. I got a little more food from the cows, and when I looked around a bit, I discovered my first stone and sugarcane. I crafted a pickaxe and mined the stone, which I immediately used for the oven, since you lose food a bit quicker in hardcore. The fried meat tasted excellent, and I took a boat ride in the river, where I discovered this little mini shell. There I mined my first copper and coal, and had an exciting fight against my first opponents. Or so. I looked around a little further and just spotted this, the new biome and a village. I knew immediately that I wanted to stay here. I explored the village a bit and of course stole the hay bales. I then went into a mini cave and took more copper and my very first iron. When I went out again, it was night, and without armor in hardcore, you'll die faster than you can look. So, I went to a villager and checked out a bed for the night. The next morning I went up the mountain a bit, and there was still part of the village up there. So it was a really cool environment. I took a leather helmet out of a chest and examined the new tree species for the first time, where I find the particles that fall down really beautiful. I cut down some wood, and then went into a ravine that was close by. I then melted the collected iron, from which I crafted an iron breastplate and an iron pickaxe. I then went a little further down into the water cave, and you have to know, the 119 is also new to me, so I saw that for the first time too. Huh? Looks really nice. That night, I went back up, and when a skeleton shot me and took 3 whole hearts, I knew that I had to go back to sleep as quickly as possible, otherwise the journey would be over very quickly. So I crafted myself a bed and went to sleep. As I explored further, I saw pumpkins, which I immediately picked up, and a short time later, I set up camp. I really liked the place here, and so I farmed a little wood, crafted iron pants, and did some terraforming. Then I got some sand and birch wood in the valley, and after a little power nap, I could start building my first little hut. As you can see, it wasn't all that nice, but I still find the hut quite comfortable to begin with. I also hung the first 2 tools in the world in the interior. With all my wheat, I crafted enough bread, which I then took to a cave to mine. After a bit of farming, I crafted iron shoes and was able to continue a little more safely. I took in everything I saw, and here they were, my first diamonds. Unfortunately, there were only 2 of them, so I had to keep mining. On the 6th day, I decided to do a bit of strip mining until I luckily found another cave where, in addition to monsters, I also found, thank God, more diamonds. Coincidentally, right afterwards, there was also an amethyst eode, where I took 1 or 2 blocks with me. Then I made my way up, where I marked the spot on the surface for the next time. I took a few cows with me on the way home, where I then crafted a diamond spear. But I was still missing obsidian for the magic table I wanted to make next. So I made my way back into a cave, where I quickly found a lava lake and snacked on 20 obsidian there. So I was able to craft a magic table that would take me to the next level. I immediately enchanted my iron armor, grew some sugarcane, and then went to sleep. Day 9 today, I wanted to tackle the full enchanter, so I traveled around a bit and took every cow I came across with me. For 15 bookshelves, you need a few books, and therefore a lot of leather. Oh, yes, of course there was also a lot of paper, so I didn't miss out on all that beforehand. All the while traveling, I really noticed the new, incredibly beautiful landscape. And I just think that the fact that there are now different altitudes, for example, is just nice. Dude, Minecraft is getting real. Anyway, night was coming, and I was definitely not well equipped for the night. So I went to sleep, and the next morning, I made a few cows disappear again. I also found a new village, where I of course stole 1 or 2 things. And a little later, I saw a ruined portal. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything too exciting in the box, but at least I got 2 gold blocks. Back at home, I crafted books and discovered that I didn't have enough sugarcane. So the next day, I set out and looked for sugarcane. I also found a village where I, of course, enjoyed every single bale of hay. I think I'm starting to become the world's most notorious hay bale thief. Well, on the way home, I discovered a village and even a pillager outpost, which is extremely practical to have nearby. On the 12th day, the time had come. I was able to craft enough bookshelves for a full enchanter, but I wanted to build a special place for it, and I decided on this stable ledge. I first leveled the area and then started building the small area. And oh yeah, I'm really sorry, but I can't show you any time lapses because the replay ode I used to do them isn't there on the 120 yet. But I hope you can forgive me for that. That was the finished full enchanter. Not too exciting, but I still think it looks pretty nice. I then enchanted my iron XT, iron shovel, iron sword, and a book until I got Forge in 3 on the diamond pickaxe. I was really happy about that. Now I just needed level 30, so I built a nether portal and entered the nether for the first time. So who wants stress? I briefly got a gold helmet at home, but then the quartz farming could begin. When I finally reached level 30, I jumped through the nether portal again and enchanted the diamond sharpener, purchased luck 3 and efficiency 4, which I was happy with. Only ability 3 was still missing. But you cannot have everything. With luck 3, I now wanted to go to more diamond farms. So I ran to my old marker, got down, and the long search for diamonds could begin. Of course, I also took lapis, iron, redstone, and gold. I then found a mine shaft where the first diamonds were waiting for me. I've been looking for the next one for a while, but it was also a very thick vein that gave me a total of 23 diamonds. I found one last source of diamonds while strip mining, and that's how I got the final number of diamonds. 55 pieces. When I actually wanted to leave, I happened to come across a skeleton spawner where there was an OP golden apple in the first box. The odds of this happening are only 3-5, and the one block viewers know how ripped off I felt. Nevertheless, I was really happy about it, and so I made my way back up. It was then that I noticed how cool the ledge with the full enchanter actually looks. In the base, I crafted myself full diamond armor, with which I felt somewhat safe in the world for the first time. Then I crafted a diamond sword, a diamond axe, and a diamond pickaxe. I then hung up my old equipment in my little hut as a keepsake. Then I crafted a bow and immediately enchanted it to infinity and power 3. Next, protection 3 was suggested to me on the chest plate, so I took a little trip into the nether and farmed my way up to level 33, with which I then enchanted the breastplate to protection 3 and the pickaxe to efficiency 4 and unbreaking 3. Unfortunately, as I had hoped, I didn't get silk touch, so I crafted another diamond pickaxe this time. Silk touch was actually suggested to me, so I farmed briefly in nether quartz again, and as if silk touch wasn't enough, I even got unbreaking 3 and efficiency 4 on it. The deer helm I enchanted wasn't too bad either, but now with silk touch I had a mobile full enchanter, and so I dismantled it completely and prepared for a long journey in the nether. There I farmed only quartz for the next few days. Here and there, I put the magic table back up and enchanted the shovel and the axe first. Then the first guest showed up and I killed him with his own weapon, which gave me a purple achievement. I also put a spell on the pants, and then when I was walking around without concentrating, this just happened to me. Holy shit, how scared I was. I actually thought for a brief moment that that was it. But thank God I was lucky. I then enchanted the shoes, 2 different ones, the sword, then packed the 2 shoes and the 2 pickaxes together and hit sharpness 3 on the sword. But now I was really exhausted, and I could make my way home. At home, I took a look at all the enchantments, and I really felt very powerful, I have to say. I completely set up the magic table again and crafted a few wooden boats the next day because I was planning on starting a raid. Of course, not at the village right next door, but at one that was a little further away. But just before I got there, I just saw the horse here. Huh? Yes, I was a little confused. No idea what was wrong with the horse. Well, I placed the boats around the outside and then ran to the pillager outpost where I killed the guy with the flag and got the bad omen. At the top, I looted the box, and for the first time in my life, I got a box horn or a goat horn, which also had a really, really nice sound. When I got back to the village, the raid started, which I was really a bit nervous about. You shouldn't underestimate a raid like this. Logically, the first few waves weren't too heavy, and 1 or 2 boats were already showing their effect. But when the evokers and ravagers came along, things got a little trickier, but I felt a little safer with a totem in my hand. I fought continuously until the 21 day, until the last villager brought me victory, and I was recognized as hero of the village. Yeah. I had a total of 7 totems as loot, which was a bit cheeky compared to the one villager who survived out of the entire village. But I wasn't complaining at all. I proudly hung most of the totems in my hut. That night, I dug up some soil next to my house so I could grow things there. For the flex, I immediately crafted a diamond hoe. What else? I then grew a number of pumpkins and potatoes, which I didn't really put any effort into. Then I wanted to go traveling again, and so I crafted a broom, which was also added in the Trails and Tales update. You can use it to clean or something like that. Casual. On 23 day, I went and my goal was to find bamboo because you can do more things with it in the new version. Of course, I also took the hay bales with me in every village. I had to do it. Nice. Then I soon saw a jungle and there was actually a bit of bamboo there, which of course I took straight away. Among other things, I allowed myself cocoa beans, of course a little jungle wood and melons, until I came to a thick bamboo rhea and packed 1 or 2 stacks there. Coincidentally, I just found this too. This has also been added in the new update and is called Trail Ruins. This was really stable, and I was able to use the brooms on a strange gravel block for the first time, which also gave me a hanging sign, which is also new to the 120 version. Excavating this archaeological site at night was a bit too risky for me, so I went to sleep and the digging could begin the next day. I was often able to dig up 1 or 2 finds with the broom, including a pot shear, which I will do something with later. I continued digging until 26th day until I got tired of it, so I left all the items there temporarily, marked the excavation site, and did more crafting on the bamboo boat, which looks more like a raft to me, and I made my way home again. Back home, I grew all the bamboo, and of course hung the pot shear in my hut. Now I wanted to slowly prepare for the end, which is why I started into the Nether and found a fortress a short time later. There I found a total of 20 wage reds from a blade spawner, and then scouted out the rest of the fortress. I was able to take 3 diamonds, my first piece of armor, and a lot of horse armor. At home, I grew a few nettles and looked for a fast horse, which I actually got on the first try, and it was really fast. I used this to look for cows and sheep, which I lured to my base and then built a cage for them. At least now I had a little more company. That night, I set out with my new best friend to kill a few endermen, which gave me a total of 3 ender pearls. Day 28 today. I wanted to travel around a bit to find either a desert, a swamp, or something else exciting. It was relatively pleasant with the horse, but without him, I would have been a lot slower. After a short time, I found another pillager outpost, where I first freed the iron golem and then the allies, which look really nice. In the evening, I found my very first mangrove swamp, where I also saw these 2 buddies. And if I had known they wouldn't drop anything, I wouldn't have killed them either. Oh well. Of course, I took 1 or 2 blocks with me, and a few hundred blocks away, there was also a normal swamp. This was perfect because I still needed slimes for lines, but since it was still daylight, I took the boat around a bit in the sea and found a sunken ship, where I even got a treasure map. But night fell again, and so I spent the time in the swamp, where, strangely enough, not a single slime spawned. It took me a while to figure out that slimes don't spawn during the new moon. These spawn most often around the full moon. So I had to wait a few more days, and so the first thing I did was dig up the treasure, where the heart of the sea was inside as a reward. I continued along the sea and found an ocean ruin where I got a fishing rod with Luck of the Sea 3 and another treasure map. A drowned man then attacked me with a trident, so I fought him, and he just dropped the trident, which was really laughable. There was then a strange block of gravel at the bottom, from which I simply cleaned another top shard. Afterwards, I looted a sunken ship, from which I received another set of armor. I also looted another portal ruin, which looked cool, but was worthless. I then made my way back home, where I briefly tamed another horse, which unfortunately wasn't nearly as quick. But when I got home, I left all my provisions. I got the next horse with which I got a few ender pearls, and then I continued looting sunken ships and ocean ruins, where I got another pot shard. That night I was out in the swamp, and I fought one slime after another until I had a total of 110 slime balls. I dug up another treasure, but then made the arduous journey home again with my favorite horse. Now I was able to craft a leash and finally give my buddy a name. I was really extremely creative and called it, "My armor has withstood a lot, and I absolutely had to prevent it from getting broken." So I crafted a laser desk, and after going out to get ender pearls that night, I imprisoned a villager and tried to get a mending book from him. But the bro was really stubborn, and it took a while until he finally offered it to me, and at such an exorbitant price. Of course, I, an idiot, bought one right away, which was probably the deal of a lifetime. Well, I traded a lot of wheat with the farmer, and when night fell again, I enchanted another bow, which was really good. I combined this with the old Infinity Ogun, and then put the Manning Ooch on the helmet, since that is the most vulnerable. The next morning I traded with the Bowmaster, and of course with the farmer, with whose emeralds I won. I then bought more Manning cloths. In total, there were 3 more pieces that I put on each of the armor pieces. Now it was time to prepare for the Ender Dragon fight, and so I started brewing potions. Since I then needed glowstone, I took a short detour to Lever. Nice. But then I finished the potions, and the only thing I was missing was the potion of Gentle Fall. To do this, phantoms would have to spawn first, and so I had to spend a few more days without sleeping. So I took down a few cherry trees that I wanted to use to create a path from my house to the magic table. So I started roughly building the path until I liked the shape, and then I added an outline with deep slate curls, and I think pink and black go together perfectly in combination. That took a while, and I replaced the normal wooden blocks with stairs so that it was a little more comfortable to go up. The shovel was about to break, so I just crafted a new one. With that, I was able to extend the path a little, namely to the nether ortal, which also stood out a bit. Overall, I was pretty happy, and I think it looked pretty stable. Pillagers then appeared completely randomly, which of course I eliminated. But unfortunately, this had a side effect. I got the bad omen. I wanted to get rid of that as quickly as possible, but since my armor was badly damaged, I went into the nether and repaired it, now that it luckily already had mending. I also farmed myself up to level 30 and enchanted the second diamond shovel, which was really completely premium. But then I made my way to a village. I blew through my goat's ear and the fight could begin. I removed the area wave after wave, often having to sweat. At the end, there were still a few opponents left that I simply couldn't find. Luckily, the first phantom spawned during the night, and I got the phantom skin from them. At some point, I gave up looking and wanted to walk home, where I completely randomly looked into this cave, where the last pillars actually were. I did this quickly and won the raid. Unfortunately, I missed the fireworks in the village, which didn't really hurt me as it was the prices from the villager. As an exploiter, I again had 4 totems to my name. I set up all the banners in my path, then brewed potions of Gentle Fall, and crafted the Eyes of Ender. Now I was well prepared. I said goodbye to the cows and sheep, and of course to my horse. Then the journey could begin. I was a bit nervous, and on 40 night, I found myself above the stronghold. There, I made my way down, where I immediately discovered the stronghold and explored it a little. And here it was, the final portal room. But I didn't enter it immediately, but looked for the library, which was somehow nowhere to be found. In the final portal room, I activated the portal with my eyes and took another short breath. I then jumped in, and now there was no turning back. First, I had to build my way to the top, where I saw the Ender Dragon for the first time. I immediately started destroying one end crystal after the other, whereby the Ender Dragon catapulted me completely away. But luckily, I had the urge of the gentle fall, which saved me in this case. When the dragon flew into the middle, I was able to do my damage with my strength potion and sword. The dragon's breath also caused a lot of damage to me, but I was able to easily counteract this with my potions. After another melee attack, he was already on low life, and so I finished him off with a bow and arrow. I looked at my victory proudly. For which I received a lot of XP as a reward, and of course, the final egg, which I immediately took with me. The victory also brought one more thing with it, namely the portal to the End Islands. I teleported in with an Ender Pearl and immediately set off to look for an End City. After a few minutes, I found one where 2 Shulker players had to deal with me directly. With the Shulker Hells, I crafted my first Shulker Ox, and then I looted the entire entity. Then I was done with it, and all that was left was the final ship. So I made my way over, and when I entered, I fought another Shulker player, and here she was, the Elytra. This would change a lot in the adventure here. I got the Ender Dragon head, felt pretty cool for a moment, and then I fled this world for the first time, and back home. Once I got back to the normal ending, I jumped through the portal, and of course, skipped the credits. Back home, I first hung up the Ender's head, and when I wanted to sort all the items, unfortunately, the boxes were already completely gone. So I needed a new storage area, which I decided to build behind my cabin. I farmed cherry wood and started building the place. I wanted to keep the combination with the deep slate, and so I built up to the 43 night into it. Then of course I had to sort everything, and when I was done, I looked at the finished storage area, which I was actually quite happy with. For the Elytra, I really needed Half Parkade 3 as an enchantment, so I tried to get this enchantment with books, which didn't work so well, so I had to collect some sugarcane again. I then used all the sugarcane to build a small farm so that I would always have enough sugarcane in the future. Fortunately, I got the first book, Durability 3, which I immediately put on the Elithma. Durability 3 was the one important enchantment. The even more important one was mending. So I traded a bit with the farmer and a new bowmaster, whose emeralds allowed me to buy 2 new mending cloths from my favorite illager. I put them on my sword and, of course, on the Elithma. Now I could travel much, much faster, and so I made my way to the excavation site in the jungle, where I was able to get some items again with the Besnag. I continued to build the trail Win until I had it halfway finished. But my goal was to expand the entire ruin so that you could view it from above. But that would take forever, so I wanted to do a full beacon first. So back home, I took the chance and started building a mine entrance at my base. I actually built this up to the bathroom skirt, where I also happened to find diamonds. But since strip mining really isn't that effective in this version, I went into the cave and collected all the iron and gold there. Of course, I took the diamonds that caught my eye with me too. The number of monsters that were constantly in the cave was really brutal, and every now and then I had to really pay attention. This meant I had to eat a lot, and so I returned quite early to get more food. Not only that, but I also came up with the brilliant idea of brewing night vision potions so that I might be able to see a little better in the extremely dark caves. When I tried this trick, I hardly believed it. It was completely light, and I recognized everything. As a result, I saw so much more and didn't miss a single diamond, which I realized I missed a few before. So over the next few days, I continued to find iron, gold, and diamonds. When I wasn't mining any of the ores and looked down, I just saw this. The deep dark. I was very happy that I had at least found it, but I didn't want to explore it yet. My equipment wasn't sufficient for that, so I just kept farming. On the 52 night, I had enough, and so I pulled myself up and flew back to my base. All of this was the yield from the last few days, which was enough for the full beacon. Now I had enough ores, but no real place to smelt them. So I decided to build a small oven place next to the storage area. Again, with deep slide in the same style. I put the different types of ovens directly into the wall and was quite happy with them. Then I put all the ores into the furnaces, which didn't come close to running out, but I didn't want to expand the area anymore. In the meantime, I simply harvested my fields and traded with villager enough to buy 2 mending cloths, which I put on each of the diamond spikes. I also didn't want to waste all the coal, so I got a few lava buckets in the nether, which then served as fuel for the ores. Now I definitely had enough iron and gold blocks for the full beacon. I was still missing the beacon on the whole thing. So I went into the nether, and before I got to a nether estung, I discovered a bastion. Of course, I had to explore this immediately, and I was a little frightened when I realized that the piglin Abba was doing me 5 hearts worth of damage, so I really had to be on my guard. Right in the first box I found the Netherite upgrade blacksmithing template, which was really nice because in the new version, you can only upgrade items on Netherite using this forging template. I got another blacksmith template, my first ancient debris, and a few gold blocks. But then I made my way to a nether nest, where I chopped up one wither skeleton after the other, although I was anything but lucky. I killed so many wither skeletons and not a single one dropped in my head. After 20 minutes, I had enough and looked for another fortress, which I found quite quickly, and which was actually much bigger and much hotter. There I continued killing wither skeletons and didn't have much luck either. It took me over 40 minutes to get the 3 heads together. And when I was about to leave, things got pretty tight and I had to sacrifice my first totem. Then at the end, I took 2 or 3 ram skeletons with me, and of course one of them dropped my head. I really felt a bit ripped off. But then I flew home and was happy that the head pouring was over. I didn't want to take any risks with the wither amph, so I walked my tunnel all the way down, where I also built a narrow passage. I placed the soul sand there, and then the heads. And then it was time. The wither spawned. I didn't know how to have fun, so at the beginning, I only fired with the bow dream, which brought him to half Ife. Then I went into close combat, where I basically fought without a diagnostic tank and therefore experienced a lot more damage. After the armor change and a golden apple, I went in again and the wither was down faster than I could see. So here was the reward. The wither star. I picked it up and crafted the beacon straight away. I made myself a few baked potatoes and the next morning I flew back to the excavation site. There I set up the full beacon and got 2 achievements. I immediately activated Haste 2 and started cutting down all the trees on the surface. When I finished that night, the next layer to remove was the soil. With the slide shovel, it was pretty quick anyway, and I was in the 60 with it. Finished night, then I wanted to tackle the stone layer, but realized that I couldn't instamine the stones because I only had the Silk Touch pickaxe for efficiency 4 and not efficiency 5. So I flew back home, repaired my shovel, and magically enchanted a new diamond pickaxe, which worked really well. I was then able to pair the 2 pickaxes together, giving me Silk Touch with efficiency 5. So I flew back into the jungle, and now I was able to mine the stones so much faster. It took a really long time and was very monotonous. So unfortunately, the concentration wasn't the best either. The exact thing I wanted to avoid happened to me. Namely, my Silk Touch pointed bag broke. Yes, that wasn't so cool. I continued dismantling until the second pointed bag was on the verge of breaking. I've come this far, and you can already see a lot. On the 63 day, I went into the nether to repair my pickaxe and warmed up to level 33, which I then tried twice to get a new diamond pickaxe with Silk Touch, which unfortunately failed. Now I wanted to explore the 120 update further, and so I decided to find all the blacksmithing templates, which was no easy task. I would get first in line from an Elder Guardian, so the Ocean Monument was my first challenge. But I really wanted to brew underwater potions, which is why I went fishing for the first time and hoped for a pufferfish. Luckily, after a while I got it, which resulted in 3 underwater breathing potions lasting 8 minutes each. I got a few more buckets of milk, and then the journey to the Ocean Monument could begin. When I got there, I went straight to the first boss, where the fight was incredibly close. Unfortunately, I didn't receive a blacksmithing template from the first Elder Guardian, but when I defeated the second one and got to low life again, I saw her swimming in the water and got the first rare blacksmithing template in my inventory. I then defeated the third boss, but unfortunately, it didn't drop anything for me. Next, I wanted to get the forge template from a pillager outpost. And since I still had the one where I freed the allies in mind, I flew there, and luckily they were in the box too. Funnily enough, I also got another goat horn. The sound is really funny, but it doesn't have any meters for my age. The next thing on the agenda was to look for a jungle temple, which, as we all know, are not that common. I then came across a sand ruin for the first time, where there is also strange sand. This is even better than the strange gravel because you can easily get a new animal egg from it. Since I didn't have any of the best with me, I quickly worked my way down, farmed copper, then a feather, and so I was well equipped again. The zombies that attacked me there just managed to waste one of my totems, which was really embarrassing, I have to say. Well, unfortunately I didn't get the new animal egg from the strange sand, but I did get a new pot shard. The next few days I traveled around, searching one jungle after another, and really had no luck when it came to the jungle temples. At some point, thank God, I saw a temple, where I was of course disappointed. Luckily, the second temple wasn't too far away, but this time I was lucky, and even twice, so I had a total of 4 pieces of the wilderness template. Now I wanted to fly back home, exploring all the ocean ruins on the way, and always cleaning the strange gravel with a broom. Unfortunately, I lost another dead person in a fight against a lot of drowned people, and the last thing I had with me. But now I really just wanted to get home as quickly as possible. At home, I equipped myself with enough rockets, and next I wanted to go to a woodland mansion. So I crafted a map table with which I turned a villager into a cartographer. I traded with him for the next while until he sold me the card to a woodland mansion. I also bought blank maps that I activated in my immediate surroundings and set up a small map at the back of the hut. Looks pretty solid where I am here. Then I made my way to the woodland mansion, and after doing a bit of cleaning along the way, I arrived there in a few minutes. The next big challenge awaited me. I took a quick breather and then went in through the main door. First, I looked around the ground floor, where apart from a few fights, there was nothing too exciting. In one secret chest, I found a music disc and 2 chainmail breastplates, and the next one even had a diamond pickaxe inside. I then found this plantation, which looked a bit shabby. Well, I continued on to the first floor, where many more opponents were waiting for me, and even the first evokers, whose changes were really giving me trouble. I searched one room after the other, hoping to find the blacksmith's template, but I hardly found any boxes, and when I did, I was out of luck. Unfortunately, when I went up to the second floor, I was disappointed again, and I was really a bit desperate. I still tried my best, and looked everywhere for a possible secret room. And when I built through the roof at the very end, I actually found a very small secret room where, thank God, the blacksmith's template was in the second box. I was really completely relieved. On the way home, I stopped at 1 or 2 ocean ruins and hoped for the new animal egg, which unfortunately, I didn't get. On 69 night, I arrived back home, and the next thing I really wanted to do was get respiration 3 on the helmet so I could breathe underwater for much longer. Unfortunately, that wasn't suggested to me at the magic table, but channeling to the trident. So of course I farmed some quartz in the nether again and was able to enchant the trident. Then respiration 3 was suggested to me on the helmet. So yes, I farmed the levels in the nether, then enchanted the helmet and combined it with my old ones, which was now really a bombardier helmet. In preparation for later, I lured a piglin into a hole I made and renamed him so he wouldn't despawn. Hopefully you'll see what I did that a little later. But now I was ready for the next big task. Namely, I wanted to find the new animals. On the one hand, the sniffer, which you can only get in Spawn, and on the other hand, of course, camels. So I flew out on 70 night and hoped for the best at every ocean ruin. At a pillager outpost in a snowy landscape, I was able to collect my 3rd goat horn, and I find the sound to be quite stable. It was a lot more pleasant with night vision potions because I could see the ocean ruins much better, and I actually got the new item. The sniffer egg. You can't believe how happy I was. And as if that wasn't enough, I just got the second one a few minutes later. That was really cool, because since you can multiply them, I didn't have to find another spawn eye. What was even better was that right next to it was the first big desert I had ever seen. After flying around a bit, I came to the first desert location, where I sat directly on the camel. This is a really, really horny animal, can jump well, and is also quite big. Riding around was really fun, but I also had another mission in the desert, which was to find another blacksmith location. Unfortunately, I was disappointed in the first desert temple. In the second one, I got diamonds, but I was disappointed there too. But then in the third, where I got 4 blacksmiths in advance, in a second desert island, I grabbed a second camel with which I wanted to start the journey home. It was the 72 day where I started the journey home, and holy shit, I'm telling you, it was anything but nice. Firstly, unfortunately, I only had 1 leash with me, which made traveling in the water quite difficult. Secondly, unfortunately, I went completely in the wrong direction at the beginning. Well, that was the wrong direction. Thirdly, it was really annoying because very often the leash on the second camel simply broke, which really took up a lot of time. Fourth, I had to go through some forest biomes where the journey really reached its peak, and I was completely aggressive, desperate, annoyed, and generally just a real beast. Here are a few funny excerpts. Ma. Now he sits down too. Ma, where's the again? Ma. Come on. About 10 blocks away as the crow flies. I finally arrived at my home on 77 day, where I renamed the 2 camels accordingly. But they still look cool, and I think it was still more than worth it. The first thing I did was build a small area for the sniffers. I didn't want to do anything too exciting, so I just built a small cage with deep slate ears. Then the time had come, and I placed the 2 sniffer GGs. They were really big, and I think it's nice that you can just dismantle them without losing them. Now I just had to wait another 20 minutes for them to hatch. In the meantime, I discovered a cat in my base, which I of course immediately tried to tame. Luckily, that worked with my only 3 raw fish, and from now on, the phantoms wouldn't get on my nerves as much, since cats have the great ability to scare away phantoms. Next, I tried to build a kind of mini estate so that the camels could feel a little more comfortable here. It doesn't look too professional, but it serves its purpose. Since I wanted to slowly tackle netherite farming, I started brewing a few fire resistance potions and tried to get a silk touch pickaxe again. The enchantment was then suggested to me, and after I took a short trip to the Nether, I just saw it at home. The sniffers finally hatched, and I think they look really funny. They also make pretty funny sounds. But I had to wait a little longer until they grew up. I then enchanted the pickaxe, which was somewhat of a disappointment. Well, then I flew around a bit and sheared every sheep I could find, and also stole the wool from Pillager Outpost. In the end, I had more than 2 stacks of wool, and I was ready to farm netherite. The beginning with TNT was really surprisingly good, and I found the first ancient debris brook very quickly, but it slowed down even more. I had 9 ancient debris, after a total of over 40 bed explosions. And since I didn't have any more TNT or wool, I just had to try strip miner. So for the next 20 minutes, I mined thousands of netherite blocks. And when I had collected 20 pieces of ancient debris, I set off into the overworld again. There I immediately melted the ancient debris into netherite craps, and unfortunately I didn't have enough gold left in storage. So I went to a cave to get it. But then I was able to craft my 5 netherite. In the new version, you also need the netherite upgrade template, of which I only had 1, but you can kindly double that. It costs 7 diamonds, but whatever. So I got 5 more templates, but before I upgraded it, I wanted to get the other blacksmith templates. The first in line was found in a stronghold, so I fled away a bit and looked for another end portal. Luckily, I went straight to the library, where the blacksmith's template was waiting for me in the first box. I then flew back home, where I crafted more rockets, and then flew directly to my already activated end portal. There, I jumped through the portal, and in the end, I went to the End Islands, where I didn't look for too long for an end city. I wanted to snack on the last template there. I got another elytra, quite a bit of loot, and my favorite achievement for the flex, namely, I let myself float up 50 blocks with the help of Schalke. Luckily, I found what I was looking for in the very last box in the end city, namely the blacksmith template. Now I had all the templates together, except for 3 that you can only find at the trail ruins, and that aren't that important anyway. And then 2 rare ones that are hopefully waiting for me in the deep dark. That's what I wanted to tackle next. In preparation, I got gas tears from the Nether for regeneration potions. Then I made strength potions, and of course night vision potions. I also went on a quick pig hunt to collect enough stable food for the big fight. But I still had to do the most important thing, namely upgrade the entire armor and also the sword to Netherite. This even gave me an achievement and made me feel more powerful than ever. Finally, I sheared some sheep again to get wool, because it is of great use in the deep dark. On the evening of 83 day, I was ready and said goodbye to the sniffers, the camels, and of course my cat, who still didn't have a name. So I went down my mine shaft, briefly looked for the right path, and here I was. In the deep dark, I immediately looted the first boxes and even found a few diamonds. Then I farmed a lot of wool down there, looted a few more crates, and did my best not to trigger the skulk sensors so that they wouldn't activate the skull creakers and thus spawn the warden. Among other things, I found this room with ice and looted a lot of boxes. Although, of course, I had to install the sensors and the shriekers one after the other and then dismantle. Every now and then I made a mistake, and after I screwed up the 4th time, that was it. It got very dark and the warden spawned. Since I had never fought him before, but knew that he was stronger than the Ender Dragon, I ran away straight away, and only after a while did I look around the corner where he was already waiting for me. After 2 bow shots, I withdrew again and lured him around a bit. I then fought my way onto the portal in the middle and simply shot the warden at the top with a bow and arrow until he finally died and I got the achievement. I was also on guard and very cautious about my volume, and I looted more pillows until I ran out of night vision potions. I then sorted through all the things in my storage and only then realized that I had received Swift Sneak 3 as a book. So I immediately slapped my pants and holy, you can actually sneak much faster with them. It even looks a bit funny. What also looks funny were the full-grown sniffers that surprised me. They look really cool and powerful and are simply bigger than me. They even sniffed the first item out of the ground for me, which was some new plant that I just grew. Well, I made my way back to the deep dark, where I continued to look for the blacksmith templates. I was really out of luck and didn't find any of the 2 blacksmithing templates in a box. With the new Swift Sneak enchantment, I was a lot faster now, but that would have taken forever with the wool tactic, so there was a change of plans. I stopped worrying about my volume and simply destroyed every skull creaker I saw. This meant I spawned 1 or 2 wardens, but they would always despawn after a few minutes. I looted through box after box, but was never rewarded with a blacksmith template. When I ran out of night vision potions again, I worked my way back up, and then when I took a quick look at the sniffers, I just noticed that you can look into them. What do they look like from the inside? Anyway, I brewed potions again, proudly hung up a skeleton head, packed feathery 4s on my netherite shoes, and this time I went into steep dark for the last time. After spawning a few wardens again, I simply found this room under the large portal. Apparently, it was some kind of exhibition of redstone constructions, which I thought was pretty cool, but unfortunately it wasn't what I was looking for either. Then I fought a warden whose attack simply did 7.5 hearts of damage to me, so he wasn't a joke at all. I felt his attack one more time, but in the end, I was the one who had the last laugh. And goodbye. I then looked at the portal for the first time, and I have to say, I'm excited to see whether anything else will happen with the portal here in the future. But what do you think? Do you think there is another dimension coming our way? Write your guesses in the comments. I would be really interested. Well, at some point I actually looted every single box, and the result was very sobering. Not a single blacksmith template, but they are super useful diamond trousers, and there are 3 of them. Also, I could now craft the record, and after sacrificing a diamond for the record player, I played the record, which wasn't the best music, but the other one shot even harder. Now I finally wanted to tackle the armor, and so I duplicated a nice blacksmith template. Then the time had come, and the armor only received a visual upgrade, but a very cool visual upgrade. I think the purple tone goes perfectly with the enchanted nether armor, and I think the pattern I chose is very nice too. But since I had many more blacksmith templates, I embellished a second piece of diamond armor with a nice shade of white, which I put on an armor stand. I also did this with mixed armor and leather armor, which also looked quite sturdy. Then I propagated the sniffers with these new seeds that they had previously sniffed out of the ground themselves, and thus got a new egg, which of course I immediately put back up. Then I quickly repaired my pickaxe and flew to the excavation site, where I dug up the rest of the ruins. This is what the fun looked like from above, and I really don't know what it was supposed to be exactly. But well, I really wanted me, and especially you, to know what the thing looked like when it was dug up. And I think it was definitely worth it. I also found my lost shulker box with my favorite oat orn. But then I dismantled the full beacon and was proud that I completed this little project. Back at home, I used my final smithing templates for 3 more sets of armor, all of which I set up at my camp, and I think that's one of the coolest things about the new update. What do you think is the coolest armor? So I still think my netherite armor is by far the most beautiful, but maybe you have another favorite. It was already 92 day and I still didn't have a proper house, so of course I still had to address that. First I flew to a taiga and farmed almost 10 stacks of spruce wood there. Afterwards, I prepared a few other things, as well as various stones, and I went briefly to an amethyst ode to get calcite, because it's a really cool white block. When I flew back up to myself, I saw the new little sniffer that had hatched, and the new flower that was already fully grown. Dude, how hot does she look? Then I had to cut down 1 or 2 cherry trees, because, of course, I wanted to build the house in the cherry blossom theme. The final preparations still needed to be made at home, and then I chose a good spot and terraformed something. Once it was fairly level, I laid out the floor plan and started building the cherry blossom house. Unfortunately, still no time lapse, but I have to say, I think the house is really epic and beautiful. I used all the pottery shards that I had collected over the last 100 days for the first time and crafted some decorated jugs that I placed in front of the house. Then I planted the sniffer flower and put the cherry blossom seedlings in the jars. Lastly, I beautified the area around it with some costard. Unfortunately, I had absolutely no time left for the interior, but I crafted another new item, namely a few new processed bookshelves. I placed them in the tower and put all my enchanted books inside, which I think looks pretty cool. But then I was finished with the house and can now present it to you. It's nice, I think. But since it was already the 100 day, I quickly built over this one gorge near me and built the full beacon on it, where I installed my very last diamonds. Then the time had come, and I still admired all my achievements in these 100 days. Starting with my first little ugly hut, where the OP old apple is still hanging inside. Then the rather meager colors, the staircase to the magic table, the magic area, the super rare sniffers, the 2 camels that cost me a few nerves, the storage area with the armor, the full beacon, and last but not least, the cherry blossom house. So there were a lot of things I did, but unfortunately, I couldn't manage to do all of them, like getting the new piglin op. Anyway, night was already falling, and I blew the goat horn one last time. That was it. I survived 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore without dying.